the lowest ever vote share under Rishi Sunak's leadership. They're predicting the party will win just 72 seats in next month's general election. It's also forecasting Labour's on course to take 456 seats, surpassing the 1997 landslide, and Reform UK expected to get 7 seats. Ukraine has been told that the European Union will stand by the country for as long as it takes to secure peace. The majority of 90 countries to take part in a 2-day summit in Switzerland have signed that final declaration, calling for nuclear plants and ports to be secured under Ukraine's control, for food not to be weaponised, and for all prisoners of war to be released. Those are the headlines. For more, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the code on your screen or go to our website. Now, though, it's time for Headliners.
Thank you, Sam. Hello and welcome to Headliners. This is your nightly run through the next day's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by Headliners legends. It's Steve N. Allen, and the man with more unsold calendars than Milli Vanilli is Lewis Schaefer.
But they're only unsold now, but they could be ordered. I'll put my...
Have you got some there?
Everyone loves a calendar in June, don't they?
Just go to lewischaefer.co.uk.
.co.uk. Not even a .com.
It's on.
Well, you've bought new batteries for that sign. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the pleasantries out of the way. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with, has Labour let the cat out of the bag on tax? The Telegraph has... Labour net zero plans 1.5, in fact that's a 4.5 billion pound tax black hole. The Guardian has new calls on Starmer to discard Tories' 2-child benefits limit. The Times leads with, go for the jugular, Sunak is urged. The iNews has Labour accused of watering down housing reform pledges. And finally, the Daily Star has the hangover. That's all the people taking the day off sick tomorrow after the football. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at Monday's front pages, starting with the Telegraph. Steve, what have they got?
Well, I mean, down the bottom is a quick mention, because this is public service broadcasting, I think. Listerine mouthwash may raise the risk of cancer. And it's to do with the bacteria in your mouth, apparently. The Cool Mint one's the bad one for you.
Really?
So if you meet someone with bad breath, tell them good news.
Because
they haven't to get the cancer.
Raised their... I thought it would be the alcohol that would be raising the risk of cancer.
No, they did a test, and of all the flavours, they found the worst one, and Cool Mint is the one to avoid, because, well, if you wish to avoid it.
So we should just actually just carry on using whiskey?
Yeah, that wasn't in the trial, so I guess it turns out it's fine.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you can be upset about this. Labour net zero plans, £4.5 billion tax black hole. This is according to Claire Coutinho, who says that Starmer's net zero plan will leave the UK colder and poorer. At least in half of that, she understands the aim of stopping global warming. So I get, well done, we would be colder than we would have been if they stopped climate change. It's straight down the middle, isn't it? Half of the people say, yeah, this is terrible. If you stop the use of fossil fuels, that'll be the money that you need to spend to plug it. Meanwhile, Labour would say they're trying to create 650,000 jobs in renewables. And this is what I love about this. Whenever there's an argument and the SNP are involved, they think this is a really bad plan, because this would take jobs from Scotland and move them probably to, like, some research centre in Cambridge.
China. In China.
No, the UK... You're even saying it in a Trump way these days.
China.
But, yeah, so, I mean, look, of course, the way to attack Labour right now is to talk about tax all the time.
Yeah, and, I mean, to be honest, this doesn't... The plan to sort of stop North Sea oil and gas, the Green Party and the Labour Party have got... It doesn't seem to make sense. Like the idea of importing oil from Saudi Arabia, putting it in a boat and bringing it here is somehow more environmentally friendly than getting out of the ground in Scotland.
Yeah, it kind of is, because it's coming from someplace else, and that's the whole history of the climate change thing. Is our climate change numbers are going down, whatever the CO2 are going down, because we're having everything made overseas. It's still being made for us. We're still paying for it, and the truth is, climate change is not a real thing.
But do you think? I mean, because we saw in the Euro elections that people who voted in 2000 2019 for Green parties all of a sudden decided that, green wasn't the big issue anymore because the economy was doing badly.
Yeah.
So they rejected. The Green parties across Europe lost, I think, about 20 seats. So do you think this election, Steve, people are going to sort of be thinking less about green issues and more about, how do I feed my kids?
Definitely. It's like you've zoomed into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right?
Yeah.
People do care about eco-y things. The same thing happened in 2008. I remember it. There was loads of news about chickens, that you didn't want to have battery farming. It was terrible. No one wanted the bad chicken. It was always the free range that had, secondary education. These chickens had a good upbringing. And then credit crunch happens. I will buy the cheapest eggs.
Yeah.
And you just swap around your needs. And if you are going through economically bad times, all of the, let's save the planet talk has to go into second place because you can't afford to plough on.
Yeah, and Lewis, do you think the argument for climate change doesn't really work in the UK because this is a terminally cold and rainy nation? I mean, I just saw scientific experts apparently saying we had the hottest May on record. Have they been outside? I mean, can they sunbathe in 13 degrees drizzle?
We've been lied to, and I think what it is at the end of the day is that people realize we've been lied to, and in the voting booth that's where they have some control until it's taken away from us by people like you.
Yeah.
But the point is that climate change is not a real enough thing.
For Britain. I mean, maybe if you live on an atoll that's half a foot above sea level, then rising sea levels are a problem. Scotland is made out of mountains.
No, it's like the
Norfolk's
Maldives.
probably a bit worried right now. They've got a sweat on. And don't sweat if you're in Norfolk. That's the last thing you should do is add more moisture. They're gone.
Come on, we can build walls that stop water getting, and it'll be fine. Anyway, moving on to The Guardian now, Lewis. What have they got? The
Guardian has staggering inequality in schools' green spaces, and this is they ran a study and they found out that the schools that the private kids go to with all the money, they've got a lot of land, but basically these private schools are in the countryside, so of course they're going to have a lot of land. It's in the countryside. It's like saying there are more cows in the countryside than there are in the city. That's what this is. And this is because this is The Guardian. They want to, they hate somebody else having a good time. What do they say about Christianity or something? Is that somebody somewhere is having
a better time
than you?
Yeah. This is the politics of envy, Steve, surely.
Yeah.
Well, this is the phrase "politics of envy" just gets trotted out whenever the idea of taxing someone with more. No, but in general, on this station and everywhere, right? If you tax someone with more, I don't like the idea of that. Let's reframe it as envy. But this is just obvious. This shouldn't be something to complain about.
Yeah.
If you're paying for a school, you expect it to have loads more.
Yeah.
And also, we sold off all the playgrounds anyway in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, who did that?
All the councils. That's the problem there.
But who allowed them to do that? That's his question, Steve.
Well, the governments. The Labour government, definitely, I'm not in favour of this.
Yeah,
I think it's always worth remembering that it's only 7% of school kids who go to these schools. At the moment, we seem to be talking about private schools like, no, how dare you attack the hard-working majority, the silent majority? No, 7% is not a majority.
But it does seem weird that Labour are attacking private schools and they're going to raise tax on them because basically, if you're sending your kid to private school, you've already paid, through the tax that you pay, you've already paid for a space in a state school, and then you're paying for another space that your kid's using in private school. So then you're going to have to take your kid out of private school, put it in state school, and then the taxpayer's going to have to pay to educate that kid. It's absolute insanity.
It's the most Labour thing to do, though, because if you want a tax that will hit the top 7%, so that your voters, who tend to not have gone to private school, will be in favour of it.
You can tell that because they're thick. And I say that as somebody...
The bottom 93% are thick?
The bottom 93% are thick. And I can say that because I went to state school and I am very thick.
I don't agree with that. I think you're one of the best people on this program. After,
right now,
after me. After me. No, it's like even in the area that I live in, which I don't want to say because it'll be political, but they're building on parks. They built on a beautiful park right in Peckham Rye.
And also, isn't inequality good because it gives people something to strive for? If there's no inequality, you can't be better than other people. So what's the point in being alive?
I agree with that. I'm against all public schools anyway because they don't. Is that
you mean
those
state schools?
Well, they're using the term private.
You're against education, aren't you?
I'm against the government taking money and putting schools in. It gives them too much power.
Okay.
Let's remember, though, that Michael Gove once said he wanted all schools to be above average.
Yeah, who taught him that? Anyway, moving on to The Guardian now, Lewis. What have they got in the cover?
Oh, no, this is...
Sorry,
Times.
Oh, yeah, to the Times. Go for the jugular, Sunak urged. Ministers say that personal attacks on Starmer are your best bet. Now, that's because they think there's absolutely no hope. There's the line that they said that you should go for damage limitation. I don't know how you particularly fight battles where you come from, but the best way to get your troops rallying up is to give them a speech that says, we're not going to win this, guys. We are absolutely going to get our bottoms handed to us. Let's try and damage the limitation right now. That's what the ministers are saying. They reckon the best thing to do is personally attack Starmer, go for attacks about his personalities. No, you're kidding me. All we've done is had years of saying he's boring, and people have gone, do you know what? Maybe that boring is less offensive than other things.
Yeah, and also attacking somebody on their personality. They've got to have a personality, Lewis.
They do, and the truth is that the way politics is set up in this country, people aren't voting for Starmer. They're voting against the Tories, I guess. And the people who are Tories are also voting against the Tories. So, and Rishi Sunak is not one to sit there and attack somebody else, because he's, what do they call that when someone's just so horrible that they themselves are...
Yeah, because Rishi isn't a sort of nasty guy. He's not somebody like Trump who's really good at, attacking people and coming up with funny nicknames.
Yeah.
Like, Rishi's a nice guy, to be honest.
I don't know if he's a nice guy or not, but he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who is of a high enough point to say, hey, let's make fun of somebody else.
Yeah.
Trump more and more is becoming that guy who's up there, but Rishi Sunak is not.
Yeah. Well, finally, let's have a look at the Daily Star, Lewis. What have they got in the cover?
Daily Star is, this is the hangover because England beat Serbia 1-0. Typical England.
This was the football, not the war 20 years ago.
Football, I don't know, Serbia. I think we beat them in a war. No, America had to get in there.
NATO.
And NATO had NATO, which is America.
Still 1-0.
Yeah, still 1-0. But it's a typical, and I know enough about football to know how things are done in this country. They went ahead 1-0, and they said, we got to protect the lead. It was in the first minute they scored a goal or whatever, and they've got to protect
13th minute.
Whatever it is, 13th minute, and we've got to protect. You should defend that, Steve.
No, I do think it's the right strategy, because how embarrassing would it be, after all of the gloating we English have done for a couple of days now, if we had have lost in the first game? No, this was the right strategy.
Yeah. Playing it safe.
Yeah.
If only Scotland could do that. Anyway, that's the front pages out of the way, but join us after the break for Labour's cross-channel migrant plan, BBC bias, and the end of woke capitalism. See you in a couple of minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Cambridge has told students to stop flirting with staff under a new policy banning sexual relationships with professors. The new rules, which come into force next month, beginning of July, include a warning against behaviour that could be interpreted as flirtatious. University staff have been told they must report any behaviour that could constitute a student making advances towards a personal, particularly intimate relationship with them. If you're a tutor, how do you interpret what is flirting and what is just sort of like having a bit of banter?
In fact, you've got to
Very nice trousers, by the way.
Thank you.
You see, you didn't even recognise.
Oh, I didn't know.
Very well.
He's got
I think I'm blushing now. I'm blushing.
So, what's flirting? What's me complimenting your very well-fitting trousers? Yeah.
Well, there is a line, because obviously when you're 18 and you go to university, it might be the first time you're away from home. It might be the first time that you're open to maybe a bit of a nightlife, social activity, drinking and all the rest of it. On the flip side, I know a couple who, this pupil ended up dating their professor, and they've been together for about sort of 15 years now. So I used to go after lectures with my professor and the whole seminar. We used to go to the pub afterwards, and I became very good friends with, she was a mature student. She was on the very, very far left of political. You wondered where that was going for a second, didn't you?
We're both breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Very quick for you, Joe. We're running out of very nice trousers as well. We're running
Thank
out
you,
of
not
time.
snug as Charlie. I think you've got to have some rules in place that there's no abuse of power. Policing it's difficult. We ought to be in a position where you can say, get off, back off, or, banter's fine. Actually, I hate that word. I hate it almost as much as woke. Go on, email in.
Thank you very much. I'm flirting with both.
The People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kerr, still with Steve N. Allen and Lewis Schaefer.
Yay.
Kicking off this section with the Telegraph, and Keir Starmer is taking the opposite approach to Rishi on illegal immigrants. Instead of sending them to Rwanda, he's giving them amnesty, Steve.
Yes, apart from that's the total opposite of what's happening. But let's not let a headline ruin a great story. So
well, in fairness, like Rishi says he's going to send them to Rwanda, and none of them go to Rwanda. So I should imagine Keir Starmer says he's going to give them amnesty, and none of them will get it.
Good news. So Labour to consider Rwanda migrants for asylum within weeks of taking power, and it says in the Telegraph, worth remembering, that the Tory party accused them of introducing amnesty. Here's what's happening, right? That Labour, they don't like the Rwanda plan.
Yeah.
The bill that gives you the actual Rwanda plan means that you can't then process these people as asylum seekers, but there's a clause in it, Section 30 means, and that's the section that gives us the power over our asylum policy, that means that you can process them. They've got a plan to fast-track the ones that are more likely to be a no, straight into a no, to get them sent home. So what you've got is a situation where a democratically elected Labour government could be using a Tory law to speed up sending people home.
Yeah.
They've rebranded it as amnesty for some reason, but just for balance, the great thing about this is Labour's pushback is to say, well, the Rwanda plan means these people, if the flights never take off, are forced to stay here indefinitely. You're offering them amnesty. So they're both accusing each other of amnesty, both being wrong. Welcome to modern-day politics.
I mean, that's a surprisingly in-depth and on-the-nose analysis there.
I do apologise.
Yeah, so. That's not what we're used to on this show.
Well, I'll put a poke in it, whatever. They're lying.
Oh,
I can tell they're lying because they're politicians and they want to get elected.
But Lewis, don't you think that, in all seriousness, Keir Starmer knows he's got to get a handle on this issue, and especially with the rest of Europe turning to the right, becoming anti-immigrant, and probably becoming a more hostile environment for illegal immigrants, they're going to be looking to come to the UK, just as immigrants look to go to Ireland when we introduced the Rwanda scheme that never actually really happened. So don't you think he's going to have to, start sending people, doing some sort of remigration?
He doesn't have to. We can let the people come in and stay. It's very good. They want people to come in. So I don't think they're going to.
But I think we want people to come in if they can abide by British values. And one of those values is being able to form an orderly queue. And if you're jumping that queue, that's not British.
What is going to happen is, let me tell you what's going to happen is they're going to continue to let millions of people into the country until the country is completely swamped and it's totally taken over by Team World. And then once it's taken over by Team World, then it's going to be taken over by Team Muslim. And then that's the end of the country. It's nice knowing you, England. You were amazing.
I mean, you seem to have elaborated and extrapolated on that.
Because he's saying, what Steve is saying is they're going to come in and they're going to be evaluated here. And some of the ones who are evaluated we don't like are going to be kicked out. How many are going to be kicked out? 5%, 10%, 20%? That means 80% are going to stay.
You're doing that lovely thing of I'm asking a question and I don't know the answer, so my guess must be true.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't want to hear your answer. The point is...
But I mean, I guess recent history has shown us that Lewis's guess is correct. People are allowed to come in, and basically everybody gets to stay. I mean, even people who, do horrific things.
Yeah.
We even give Hamas chiefs council houses. It's insanity.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, the last 14 years, the people who are now making the argument all about we're going to be tough on migration. Well, you should have been tough for 14 years. Tell you what, we'll let you ignore the first fall because that was coalition territory. But since then, you really should have stepped up.
That's a very good point. Moving on, we've got the Telegraph again, and Europe is going to use artificial intelligence to filter out dodgy British tourists.
Well, this is one of those stories. British tourists may face lie detector tests when trying to enter the EU, but they're going to be AI. I don't understand AI. It's only lately that I've finally begun to think maybe AI is a bit dangerous. But they've been doing this for years. They look at people and they use another AI. You're black, we're not letting you in. That's sort of an AI thing. They've used...
But they haven't used that AI. You just made that up.
They use that AI. They do.
They're just making things up.
They do. They used to look at people. They say, we don't like the way you look, and we've got you on a list.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Ever happened. It happened before, what's his name, Tony Blair took over. Anyway, the point is that there's been these plans. What the Europeans are doing, they want to say, look, we're still important. We're not going to let you into the country if you're British.
So this is this some sort of revenge for Brexit?
Well, it's written like that, but this is a policy that the EU is going to have for people coming in from other countries. We've made ourselves one of those other countries.
Yeah, but we're Britain.
So we should get special dispensation.
We're better than those other countries.
Yeah. I don't know how much it's going to slow us down as well. Basically, it's not even a lie detector. They've written that up as if somehow you'll be polygraphed up with all stuff strapped in your arm. It's just like, when you're trying to buy stuff and it has to remind you that they've got a camera looking at your face. So when you're filling in a form, it's going to do that. And if AI detects that you look a bit shifty, it will flag you to a human.
OK.
I mean, good. Maybe I wouldn't pass, but I don't mind people checking on shifty people.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about going on holiday now. Well, the Telegraph now, and BBC apparently stands for biased Bolshevik communists, Steve.
This is a lovely story. Tories accuse BBC of lefty Blairite bias over Laura Kuenssberg's panel. So the panel, and it says here, which is supposed to represent the views from across the political spectrum, had Andy Burnham, Labour Mayor, Brian Cox, big old lefty from Succession, and Nadine Dorries. What? How is she a Blairite? Like, literally, Rishi Sunak is more of a Blairite than Nadine Dorries, the Boris fan. But she's been a critic of Rishi, so some people have kicked off. Even though Ofcom says you need to represent the parties, not specifically the factions within the parties. To be fair, though, to the BBC, it is very difficult to find someone who likes Rishi right now. Literally, people do polls every day trying to look for voting intention, and they are rapidly running out of people who like Rishi. But, yeah, people are accusing the BBC of lefty bias, and their evidence is they employed Nadine Dorries. It's brilliant.
I mean, that's a pretty accurate summary.
Sorry, I'm
much
doing it again.
Much as I'd like to find some bias in the BBC, it doesn't seem to have appeared here. But don't you think the Tories would be doing better if they'd stuck with Boris?
No, because Boris would eventually... Boris lied to the people.
He's a politician.
Yeah, but he lied way more. He lied... In order to get Brexit through, he told everybody that, this COVID lie scam thing. So eventually they would have turned on him too. The Tories are a dead party. It was time for the Tories to go. They've been around for 14 years or whatever. And the truth is, the reason why they're talking about this is because the BBC has lefty Blairite bias.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that already, but this doesn't seem to be the battle to bring them down.
It doesn't, but
they have Nadine Dorries on there. She's not even a particularly wet conservative.
I don't even know who
Although they're all pretty wet.
The point is that when you're sensitive from being beaten, even, you just hold up a wooden spoon, and people are going to be upset.
Yeah. This wooden spoon, can I vote for it? It sounds much better than anybody else on the election register. Anyway, the Telegraph now reporting on how the ESG funding bubble has burst. That's basically woke finance that tries to make the world a better place but isn't very profitable, Lewis.
Yes, and this is something that I'm finding out about. It's basically Mark Carney, who was head of the Bank of England, and he arranged all of his buddies, 450 finance companies, to fight for ESG, which is called... What is ESG called? What is
Environmental, social and governance.
It's about, companies being super nice. And one of those things is about looking for a net zero of the climate change thing, which we all know. Maybe you don't know that it's bull. But I think it's bull. I think it's bull. You could say, Luke,
I'm not going to engage with your take on climate change.
It's obvious, Bill. I mean,
I want you to.
It was set up because obviously a lot of people with money say, well, I want to invest in a way that's going to make the world a nicer place.
And not be penalised.
So then they set this up as a sort of marketing thing. So they're like, well, we're not going to invest in weapons companies, even though they're actually good now because of the war in Ukraine. We're not going to invest in anything that's polluting the world, any oil or anything like that, even though that's the thing that underpins the whole world economy. We're going to invest in things that are green. But because of the way basically it introduces a layer of bureaucracy over all businesses that want to access this ESG funding, that means that every advert's got to have a transgender biracial couple. Every company has to completely divest itself from any fossil fuels, and it's weird. So the way it works is like Tesla ends up having a worse ESG score than a tobacco company, even though tobacco companies make things that kill people, and Tesla makes the technology that's going to apparently save the human race.
Yeah, it's very bad. And the most important thing is they're not making enough money. These companies, it's costing them money to have to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And these companies don't make money, so they have trouble getting investors. I
was going to say they've underperformed less than just like a tracker of the FTSE 100.
Yeah,
but good, let them have it. This is exactly the same as people can either buy cheap coffee, because that's all you can afford, that's all you want to spend on it, or really expensive coffee that's fair trade and locally sourced and tertiary educated beans and all that rubbish.
Yeah.
It's just the same. If you want to not make as much money, because if you want to make loads of money in capitalism, get a psychopath to do it. They rise to the surface. If you want to do this ESG stuff, you'll make less money. Good luck.
But the issue was that these funds they were outperforming other funds for years, but it was a Ponzi scheme because people were, pushing money into these funds, and because they were doing so well, because so much money was flowing into the stocks and the bonds that they invested in, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The values went up because money was flowing in. Now the money's flowing out, and as the tide goes out, we see who's not wearing any trousers. And also, pension funds that have money put in these ESG funds. Pension funds have a legal obligation to provide maximum returns. So if they're invested in funds like this that all of a sudden aren't providing maximum returns and are in fact invested for ideological reasons, then that's a real problem for the courts.
Making money is not ideological.
Yeah, exactly. Greed is good. Anyway, moving on, we've got The Guardian now with good news for anyone who's committed a crime in the UK, Steve.
Yep, people should not wait 2 years to be tried. Inside the Crown Court crisis, it's basically a couple of case studies of how bad our crumbling court system is, to add to the category of crumbling NHS and literally crumbling schools. So we're doing really well. It's badly run, the system's failing. The article gives you loads of examples of why defendants missed their trial date, including one of them who missed the court date because he was arrested and in jail. Just send him down. I can save you some time there. That feels like you can cut that corner. But there were video links that didn't work because people aren't good at IT and it relies so heavily on it. And even the ones who do actually turn up get given a court date in 2026. And they point out this is terrible for the victims. It's also terrible because you'll end up with loads of people who actually are criminals walking the streets for 2 years free. And the flip side is people who would be found innocent on remand for 2 years of their life being locked up for something. This is an absolute mess, but I don't have any solutions for it.
I have a solution to it. There's a very easy solution, which is kill. People, they've got to kill. There's too many. First of all, it's done by the government.
Start with the judges.
We should have less judges. We should the reason there's too many criminals in this country. Why is there too many criminals? Because they've let people come into this country and do bad things and they're not being punished. And the shocking thing is this is in The Guardian. The government is, not the government, whatever you call the state apparatus here.
The woke blob, Team World.
Team World. It's the people who run the government are ill. They can barely do this. And this is the only job that we ask them to do, that and defend our borders.
So just as a little recap, people coming from other countries that make us want to kill. I'm on board. Somehow you've convinced
me. No, there are exceptions.
So you've got a very Bukele-esque solution to that. Very interesting.
Is that a Japanese thing?
No, it's the El Salvador. He's locked up all the gangsters, and remarkably, the crime rate has gone down hugely. So I mean, it seems to work somehow. Anyway, we're at the halfway point, but stay with us to find out what Albanian criminals are doing in Scotland and what happened to the policeman who ran over a cow. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. We're expecting heavy showers on Tuesday, but by the time we reach midweek, there'll be plenty of dry weather around, even some sunshine across most of the country. For the weekend, though, we have had low pressure draped across the UK, which has generally brought an unsettled picture, plenty of rain and showers. And it's this low pressure which is pushing this area of rain into northern parts of England by the time we reach this evening, generally clearing across Scotland with a few showers creeping into the north. But across central areas and in the south, plenty of clear weather overnight, which means it's going to feel a little bit cooler, may even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach Monday morning. And then across the north, generally milder, where that cloud sticks around. So to start on Monday, then, we are going to start to see some showers feed in across Scotland, which is pretty much the setup for the rest of the day. A little bit drier across Northern Ireland and parts of northern England, just some spots of rain and drizzle, mainly across hills. But elsewhere, across central areas of the UK, southern parts of Wales and down across the south coast, there'll be plenty of bright sunshine to start the day. Generally, though, Monday is going to be quite an unsettled day, plenty of sunny spells and showers. The odd shower could be heavy at times as well in the northeast, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. But generally across the south and southeast, it's going to be largely dry, and we'll even start to see some sunshine by the time we reach the afternoon. And that's where it is generally going to be warmest, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius, depending on how much sunshine we see. But elsewhere, temperatures generally around average, where that cloud sticks around. For Tuesday, then, once again, generally an unsettled day with those sunny spells and showers. These too could be heavy at times in the northeast, and the southeast catches the most of the driest weather as well, and that's where temperatures once again are going to be at their highest. Generally, though, from midweek onwards, turning drier with some sunshine. And that's it from me. Bye for now.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Times now revealing how the Green Party went from plants and ecology to trans ideology, Lewis.
Yes, this is news of the Green Party, and this is you know, they had to go someplace where people actually vote green, and they didn't want to go to the other one, so they went to Bristol.
Yeah,
or maybe
Brighton.
Or Brighton. They go to Brighton or Bristol or the other place up there, and they don't want to go to the other place because they want the Green Party to be like a replacement. Or
what's the story?
The story is the Green Party is nice. It's nice.
Is it nice?
It is nice.
Are you sure it's nice, or is it just trying to virtue signal and trying to be nice, trying to look nice?
That's what everybody's trying to do. I'm trying to be nice.
I'm not trying to look nice.
It says they have a problem with the Green Party because it doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. For the left, you know, there are lots of left-wing people who. I don't know what I'm saying.
Could you explain, for any Green Party candidates that are watching, could you explain what the difference is between a man and a woman?
I could explain. Women are trouble. Men are trouble too, but there's a different kind of trouble. Man doesn't bore you to death talking to you for hours before the
we try and do that in this show.
Yeah. I guess so, yeah. No, what's the difference in the Green Party? I don't know. Back in the day, the Green Party was like about the environment, but now it's moved in. Now it's an alternate left party, but it's also a pro-Gaza. It's the most pro-Gaza party, and I think it's bothering something.
Well, Steve, yeah, because this sort of makes me confused because the Green Party, as Lewis says, used to be just woolly cardigans and recycling and ecological issues, green issues, and now it's trans rights and radical Islamism as well, which they don't all seem to fit together.
No, and I think I talked about this once before, saying they might change their strapline to Greenpeace be upon him. But
Greenpeace the opponent.
Greenpeace be upon him.
Oh, be upon him.
Yeah.
Let's not overanalyze that. I think I'm going to get in more trouble if we spend longer on it.
Is that like a biblical reference?
Let's not draw a picture.
But this article mainly just looks at the first two, doesn't it? The eco versus the trans groups, not necessarily fitting well within the party. But every other party is an uncomfortable coalition of people who don't quite get along but want to try and get the votes. So maybe it just means the Greens are evolving into more of a mature party. Because you've always had a schism through the middle of Labour, one through the middle of the Conservatives. And look, they've got their own now.
So they're now basically a radical communist party for students.
Yeah, that'll get them.
If that can fit in a poster. Moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and I'm sure you saw the footage of a police officer bravely saving the public from a bloodthirsty, rampaging cow by running it over with his police car. Well, apparently he's in trouble for that, Steve.
Yeah, police officer who rammed cow removed from frontline duties. Sorry, removed from frontline duties. Too soon? Too soon, is it? Do we know if the cow's OK? Surrey police started an internal investigation after it says after it was reported. We all saw the footage. If you've not seen it, I'll tweet it to you. Tweet me and we've got it. OK, here we go. Let's narrate what's happening here. Here's the cow.
Yeah.
Comes out there and...
Just about to attack someone.
Oh, so we don't show the actual bit?
No, because it's horrific.
We're
showing the worst. Why are we showing the worst bits of the video?
It needs to be narrated by Michael Burke in like 999. It was then things got worse.
Or by David Attenborough showing the natural predator of the cow, a police car.
It's when the police attacked the cow. So what happened? I mean, so the cow was sent flying. She was sent flying. It was a calf sent flying, then parked on top of to be pinned down. Many online said it was terrible. One said, why didn't they use a tranquilizer dart? It's very difficult to fit those on the front of a marked car.
People always say, why didn't you use a tranquilizer dart? As if everybody's got loads of tranquilizer. If somebody had tranquilizer darts, I'd be like, why have you got those? Why are you
going to that nightclub? On the way to that nightclub? However, Lisa Townsend, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey, urged people not to speculate on what had happened without understanding the full facts. The cow had a knife. The cow had been reported to the Prevent programme. He was probably some sort of terrorist of some sort.
The colour of the cow's
but at the end of the article, I love this as well. It says more than 30 people have been killed by stampeding cows in the last 6 years in the UK. More people have been killed by the police. Let's not get numbers into this. You're not going to win.
Well, you know what? You're very right. I walked in on that park by Mudchute Farm. You know Mudchute Farm? No. Mudchute. Do you know Mudchute?
Oh, that Mudchute.
The DLR station.
The DLR right there, right where the thing is. And I got hit by a cow, and it was quite scary. Cows are dangerous. But when I see it, I just see dinner. And they shouldn't be killed that way.
Yeah, and when they stampede, that's a herd. I grew up in the countryside. We used to get them to stampede towards us for a laugh. You know, it was our version of New Kids on the Block riding the subway trains. But you've got to have a herd of them to get killed. You can't get killed by one cow.
I think you could get killed by one if you're maybe a baby or a child.
But I respect this police officer because the amount of police resources that went into trying to stop this escaped cow, and so he was like, well, let's just give the taxpayer value for money and stop this cow now.
Because he's sitting there all day long wishing he had a gun, like real cops. But the thing is, it happened in Feltham, which is the last stop on Zone 6. Right. It's pretty close into the city.
Got superb knowledge of the London public transport network. Anyway, the cow is fine. It just got a grazed leg, apparently. They're indestructible. Anyway, we've got the Express now, and a university has said it's problematic to be white and heterosexual. Well, yeah, it is if you're trying to be cast in an advert, Lewis.
Yeah, it is, because as a person who is problematic, even if I wasn't white or heterosexual, this is the University of Liverpool, and they paid somebody. They basically want everybody to be on the same page, which is promoting diversity and decolonization and all that stuff. And but people at the University of Liverpool, and this is just another story. Remember, this has been a weekend, so there hasn't been anything that interesting happening.
What do you mean a cow was hit by a police car?
That's a cow. That's why we did the story. What else? What other stories are that interesting?
We should have just done an hour on that.
Yeah. The truth is they want more people to negatively view.
Because it's a university, so of course they hate, white people and heterosexual people, Steve.
Yeah, to actually say it out loud, you need to find the problems with white and heterosexuality within the syllabus. I feel really sorry for straight white women who must be like, oh no, I thought it was the men that we hate. Oh, not us too. But sorry, ladies, you've been included.
Yeah, and you started this whole thing off, so now enjoy, reap what you sowed. Yeah. Moving on, we've got the Times now, and Albanians have taken over the one industry that Scotland excels at, drug dealing.
Yeah, inside the cannabis factory, how Albanians took over drugs in Scotland. So this starts with the story of someone who managed to find like a cannabis growing house because a cat smelt of drugs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if I found a cat and it smells of cannabis, I just presume the cat was a user. Because they lay around all day, they only wake up to have snacks. Cats are natural cannabis users. But no, they traced it down. And here's the problem. There are Albanian drug gangs.
Yeah.
They used to just import, smuggle the stuff in, and now they've realised they're growing it. What are the downsides of that? Well, it uses a lot of electricity because they've gone to Scotland where there's no light. The fools! You're trying to grow something in an area with no sun. The message here is about migration, because these are taking work away from the low-life scumbags who would grow drugs in this country and sell them. What are they meant to do now?
Yeah. And also the message is about not having a cat at work if you have a smelly drug.
I don't think that's the message. The message is that they've taken over. They could be English people. And what happens when these Albanians...
Scottish.
When these Albanians, or British people, whatever, they're not even British, sorry, when they're Scottish. Would you stop interrupting me?
We're part of Britain.
Yeah. But
For now.
no, most Scottish people don't think that they're Scottish. Most of them think that they're just not British.
Most Scottish people think that they're British.
They don't.
There was literally a referendum that asked that.
And what did it say? 60% said they didn't think they were British.
No, because the Remain won the referendum. So most Scottish people think that they're British. And if they don't think that they're British, they can Google it and find out that they are British.
They don't. Anyway, here's the point. I'm not getting to argue with you. My ex-wife is Scottish. The truth is, there's been plenty of immigrants to this country that completely take over the market. All the Uber drivers, you know, all the hotels in America are all owned by Indian people.
Headliner panelists.
All American Jews. So this is, at least somebody is doing the work.
So you're glad that somebody's growing that vital marijuana crop in Scotland?
Well, number one, we're not paying immigrants from Morocco like we used to.
I'm worried that this means, because this drugs den, this cannabis growing factory was discovered because of the smell, drug dealers are going to move on to odourless drugs such as fentanyl. Yeah. And that's been deadly in America. Like, around 70 to 100,000 people are dying a year in America from fentanyl.
Do you think because they found one of these places?
No, I think a broader trend. Fentanyl is eventually going to make it to the UK.
I think Steve can explain this to you. I don't know where that came from. Where did it come from?
What? I'm not going to explain any of your points.
Yeah, I don't even know what my point is.
My career.
My point is what does it have to do with anything? The fact that is this going to drive people away from fentanyl?
No, I mean, cannabis is a low-value drug compared to other drugs. Fentanyl, you can fit a lot into, you know, a rubber glove and stick it into an orifice. And
quite Moorish.
It's very Moorish, and it's odourless. It's much smaller. It's much more deadly, and it's got a much higher street price. So I think drug dealers are going to be like, why are we messing around with this smelly plant when we could be selling fentanyl? And then the entire Western world is going to go to hell.
Because people don't die from pot, generally speaking.
Yeah, they just get lazy and listen to bad music.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's part 3 in the bag, but stay with us for the final funniest section where we find out how electrocuting your brain can help you get over a breakup. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The Princess of Wales has reportedly been out and about, enjoying days out with her family, while she continues to undergo her treatment for cancer.
And Buckingham Palace says they have been inundated with tens of thousands of get well soon cards and gifts for the princess.
Yes, I can imagine so. Now we're joined by former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray. Charles, how do they know she's been out and about with her family?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. It's interesting, yes. I mean, how do they know that she's been out and about? No pictures have been seen of the princess out and about. And I'm surprised that with all the people who've got camera phones, that she has been that out and about, that we haven't seen her. But anyway, we have to accept that she is out and about. She's with her family. But the palace are making it quite clear, pointing out that this should not be confused with her returning to work anytime soon. There are even some suggestions that she won't return to work probably until the autumn, and there's one suggestion that may not even be till next year. Like her father-in-law, she's not sitting at home with her feet up watching daytime TV. She is actually working. She's actually doing things
And yet, this is a difficult time, of course, for the royal family to navigate everything. The King has cancer, the Princess of Wales has cancer, and we're in the middle of a general election campaign where the royal family have to be very, very careful about where they go, what they do and what they say.
Sure. And as you quite rightly say, Tom, I mean, things have had to be cancelled in any case. So during this next 6 weeks, we are not going to be seeing any members of the royal family doing as much as they possibly can or can do prior to a general election.
The People's Channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Times now, and for any white people worried that ethnic minorities get special treatment, the good news is white people are now an ethnic minority, Steve.
Yeah, global majority, the new buzzword, what it says about our world. So previously, on talking about these issues, the phrase BAME has been actually other phrases before that. You go back to the 1970s.
Oh, let's not go there.
I say there are phrases that we can't broadcast. Lewis still uses them. But so black, Asian and minority ethnic. The problem with that was, and there was a whole report that looked at it and suggested we should stop using it because what it does is groups too many diverse people into one generic term.
Right.
It's effectively offensive. It's quite racist itself. Let's not use that phrase. So now we have a global majority that groups even more people into one term. Look at that, doubling down and making the same error.
Yeah.
And this, if anything, I mean, some people say it basically means non-white. That's not true. It also includes Jewish now, because that's being used quite a lot. So global majority means not white or Jewish. And it's also pointing out the numbers game, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that there's a lot...
What am I? Am I in the global majority?
No, you're in the you're in the minority.
I'm in the white minority.
I think so, yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah, you're a minority.
Yeah, it's a problem basically because then there's the term global because that's what they have in they think it's global, but it's just Germany and France taking over.
But I was surprised. I don't know why you're talking about Germany and France, but I was surprised to learn that white people. I thought, most people were white because I'm looking at Britain, I'm looking at Europe, I'm looking at America, which actually isn't mainly white anymore. But actually, white people are only 8%. 8% of the global population, Lewis.
Which wouldn't be a problem if the rest of the people stayed where they were supposed to be staying.
Well, but I mean, the problem is that, why do people hate white people so much? You've got these university courses that are saying we need to abolish whiteness and we need to have no white people left. It's like, well, can't we have some? Can we, protect just some Cockneys? Can't UNESCO go in and preserve them as a World Heritage Site or something?
Well, as a person who grew up under the thumb of white people, and now I am the thumb, okay, is that white people were bad and now you're good, and what can be done? The fact is that those who aren't busy being born are busy dying, and I think white people are not being born; they're dying.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the answer to the question.
Anyway, we've got the Express now, and American soldiers are going to be used as guinea pigs for lab-grown meat. To be honest, it's probably the least weird thing they've been used as guinea pigs for, Lewis.
Yeah. Well, this is the Pentagon slammed over woke plan to use U.S. troops. Did you say this already? As guinea pigs. They're trying to grow lab-grown meat, and this company called Biomade, or however it's pronounced, they've received an additional $450 million money from the U.S. government to grow lab-grown meat. And the truth is, it's unsustainable lab-grown meat. It can never taste as good. It won't be as good because it's not the real animal that was alive before. Someone who eats a 95% diet of meat and cheese and
Someone
eggs.
would have said this, though, before we started having factories make our food.
Yeah.
Back in the days when food came from farms, it all tasted better, it was better, and yet we let factory... And this is what they call it lab-grown meat. By the time we're all eating it, it will be factory-produced meat, because labs
it'll
are
just
expensive.
be processed and it'll be full of all kinds of junk.
Yeah, like all the stuff that's made in factories now.
Yeah.
So it'll just be another slice of ultra-processed food, which it's all very well saying people won't eat it. That's what people would have thought before we started having factories churning out the stuff that we do stuff.
I didn't say they wouldn't eat it. I'll say they'll eat it, but the truth is, it's going to kill them.
Well, the good news is you can cheer up if you have your brain electrocuted, Lewis.
Oh, this is good news. This is good news. Which is in the Journal of Psychiatric Research. This comes out of the University of Zanjan in Iran. So it comes out of Iran. The idea, if someone's being really sad because they lost their loved ones because of something.
Because of heartbreak, not because they died in a car crash.
Right. Is that for a 400-pound headset, for just a few minutes a day, they can have electricity drilled into their brain.
Yeah.
And they can feel slightly better. They did this with 36.
They've done this before with electric shock therapy.
Yeah.
As a sort of last resort for depression and things.
Yeah. Yeah, so my research is just watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it all turns out fine there, doesn't it? So, why not? I mean, don't spend the money. Just do that thing where you get cheap shoes on a carpet and then just...
and then touch a tap. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with, has Labour let the cat out of the bag on tax? The Telegraph has Labour net zero plans £4.5 billion tax black hole. The Guardian has... new calls on Starmer to discard Tories' two-child benefits limit. The Times has go for the jugular, Sunak urged. The iNews has Labour accused of watering down housing reform pledges. And finally, the Daily Star has the hangover after the football. And those were your front pages, and that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests Stephen Lewis. Simon Evans is back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Josh Howie and Cressida Wetton. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
Warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. We're expecting heavy showers on Tuesday, but by the time we reach midweek, there'll be plenty of dry weather around, even some sunshine across most of the country. For the weekend, though, we have had low pressure draped across the UK, which has generally brought an unsettled picture, plenty of rain and showers. And it's this low pressure which is pushing this area of rain into northern parts of England by the time we reach this evening. Generally clearing across Scotland with a few showers creeping into the north, but across central areas and in the south, plenty of clear weather overnight, which means it's going to feel a little bit cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach Monday morning. And then across the north, generally milder, where that cloud sticks around. So to start on Monday, then, we are going to start to see some showers feed in across Scotland, which is pretty much the setup for the rest of the day. A little bit drier across Northern Ireland and parts of northern England, just some spots of rain and drizzle, mainly across hills. But elsewhere, across central areas of the UK, southern parts of Wales and down across the south coast, there'll be plenty of bright sunshine to start the day. Generally, though, Monday is going to be quite an unsettled day. Plenty of sunny spells and showers. The odd shower could be heavy at times as well in the northeast. May even hear the odd rumble of thunder. But generally across the south and southeast, it's going to be largely dry, and we'll even start to see some sunshine by the time we reach the afternoon. And that's where it is generally going to be warmest. Highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius, depending on how much sunshine we see. But elsewhere, temperatures generally around average, where that cloud sticks around. For Tuesday, then, once again, generally an unsettled day with those sunny spells and showers. These too could be heavy at times in the northeast, and the southeast catches the most of the driest weather as well, and that's where temperatures once again are going to be at their highest. Generally, though, from midweek onwards, turning drier with some sunshine. And that's it from me. Bye for now.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still time to win our Summer Spectacular with an incredible trio of treats, and you could win them. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got political